Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes since I last worked on this leaf. I left it in the sun a little bit so it would dry a shade faster. So it might say take a half hour or so for your things to be about this stiff. You can see now I can hold it pretty sideways and it's actually stiffening up. It's not quite leather hard, but if I was to bend this aggressively, it would crack all on the back side. So it's at a point to where I can still get a little bit more information out of it. I'm going to crush this a little bit thinner my edges to get even more detail. So let's do one more pass on each side of pinching this down. And now that we're stiffer, we can hold a sharper edge. Okay, I got a little point right there that's sticking out farther. I'm just going to crush a little bit to each side of it and get that area to stick out farther rather than trying to push that little area in. And right here it's not pushed out enough that there is a little bit of a undulation in the curve. So if I just squeeze right there, I'm going to squeeze that out and fill in that little void. Okay, so now I'm pretty happy with roughly how thinned out my edges are. I can keep thinning them and more. For this demo, I think this will be good. So now I'm going to draw my veins on the leaf. So what a lot of people like to do is draw something like this. Which definitely makes it more recognizable as a leaf. But the problem is these veins now are the exact opposite of the way they would be on a leaf. On a leaf, the veins are carrying all the nutrients, and so they should have more mass than the rest of the leaf. And here we actually just removed the mass. So I'm gonna flip this over, and I'm gonna do it again on this side. Just lightly putting a mark on here so I can just have a reference. Okay. So now you can see I kind of have that lightly drawn out, pretty much the same thing I did on the other side, except it's much less aggressive. So now I'm going to go and try to remove areas to leave this as a high point. You can see my clay is smearing here, so it is still a little wet for what I would prefer for this stage. now we can see I got a leaf with veins. Some of them could be messed with a little bit more, but I think for the sake of the demo, we're gonna move on. So now that this is even a little stiffer than it was before, I'm gonna pinch my edges a hair more, and I'm actually just gonna pinch them between the veins to give this leaf a little bit more body. Okay, you see the difference between the two sides. Now we're getting a little bit more interesting of a leaf. The last thing I want to do is I'm just going to move it into a bit of an organic position, so that way it's much more leaf-like. Basically now this is to where I'm going to want to let it dry even more, and then I can go back and really do some detail work and clean up some of these edges to where I have small smears in the middle. But since I kind of like the way I got my shape now, pretty happy with this side as opposed to that side. Now I can do as we discussed earlier. I'm gonna sit a piece of newspaper under it here, back a little under there, and just put a little under this tip to keep it up. And voila. Now I'm gonna let that dry for a while, and then if I was to want to go back, I could continue adding detail to it. This is so thin that I'll probably want to cover it up pretty soon, otherwise it's gonna dry really fast. And once something's dry, I have an old leaf I made in the past, very similar. This is bone dry, and we can see how easily that guy breaks. So we do not want to let our ceramics get to that dry for this project at all. Once it's this dry, it is extremely hard to rehydrate to be able to make it to where you can actually make it plastic and use the same component again in your sculpture. All right, thank you.